that's 3 things you need to do. Focus on that. So
Right, almost like reverse engineer the problem out.
Yeah,
In small bites. I agree.
yeah. Just don't look that far ahead.
Welcome to this edition of On Tap, presented by FCSI The Americas. I'm Wade Kaler, Executive Director. On Tap this week is someone that takes his volunteer role so serious that he one time hand-stitched patches on the hats for an FCSI conference just to make sure the sponsors would be happy. He's an award-winning consultant, author, and frequent FCSI speaker. Please welcome the president and executive principal of Rippe Associates, Mr. Steve Carlson. Hey, Steve, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Wade. Good afternoon.
No, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it. I've talked to some of your colleagues, and the hat stitching is still one of my favorite stories of any volunteer that's ever gone above and beyond. Because I remember I was doing that conference as a conference planner back then. And when you told us you were going to do that, we were all like, what? Why the hell would you ever do that? But you're like, no, we got it under control. We got it. And we were like, all right, go right ahead. If that's what you want to do, we can get it done for you. Nope, we got it good. And I'm like, and it turned out great. And it's still one of those pictures that people are thrilled with. Like if they see themselves with those hats on, it's one of those that people still love to this day. And that was, 13 years ago?
No, hard to believe. I still have some sponsors that every time I see them, they say, I still have my hat. So
yeah, that's a big deal. So at least this way, that you're the blood, sweat, and tears of stitching still, was a good thing. So, well, anyway, before we get started, I'd like to start off every episode with the same, and that is, tell us a little bit about you, how you got your start in the hospitality industry, and then how it led to you becoming a food service consultant.
Okay. So, I don't know how far you want to go back. It was just Eric was saying, well, just to get ready to talk about your history. And maybe I'll say before I found out about this business, I started out in Premed and then, here in Minnesota, a small college, and then switched to biomedical engineering. And then, at one point I was going to go to chef school, and I had a semester where I took biomedical ethics, ballroom dance, and textile science. I think just 6 credits so that my student loans wouldn't come due. And I was ready to go off to the Culinary Institute, and I worked a summer at a country club in Chicago. And I was like, this is not the life for me. So
yeah,
somehow I found out there was somebody at the University of Wisconsin-Madison that had an old copy of the Consult magazine. They used to be brown, and they came out once a quarter. He says, well, there's these people out there that do food service consulting. And I was always interested in building, architecture, as well as cooking. So I was like, wow, this is great. So, but I finally graduated. I mean, you go to Madison, it's kind of like a black hole, right? You can, the Hotel California, you can check out, but you'll never leave. So I was like, I remember being a junior, best 3 years of my life. So when I finally left there, decided I had enough of Madison. I needed to get a diploma. It was 1982, and it's like, oh man. I mean, I felt when we went through 2008, 2009, and everybody was looking for a job then, I said, hey, I've been there before. So
yeah,
I knew I wanted to be in this business. It took me a while to get there. So my first job was with a stainless steel fabricator in the Milwaukee area. Yeah. I didn't know you couldn't live on $6 an hour. So, but I fortunately had some friends there, year and a half there. Then I went, my next move was to a equipment dealer in Minneapolis, and about a year and a half, 2 years there. And then finally, Bob Rippe was looking for somebody. I'd sent my resume to Bob, every time I was looking for a job. And finally, the third time was a charm. So he was looking for somebody. Yeah. And so, I mean, that was nice. That was great to be there. I mean, finally had a job where, I was always looking for more to do. It's like I got to Rippe. He's like, you could have all the work you want. So
nice. Now, you've been with Rippe, obviously, for a long time. For you personally, I know Rippe does a lot of different type projects, but are there top 3 or 4 segments that you specialize in more than others?
More now the hospitality, and probably, we spent a lot of our time working on Native American gaming projects. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, when did I start? In '86, and then we got our first casino project in '94, I think. So, whatever that is. I had somebody I had worked with in one of my previous jobs got a job with a local casino company, and we got the opportunity. So, but before that, all we did was hospitals. So,
Yeah. Now,
yeah.
when you're doing a casino, is there anything that's, like there is when you're working on a prison, there's stuff you got to think about. There's a lot of rules and regulations that work around casinos. So is there anything when you're designing something for a casino that you have to be more careful of than you do a regular hospitality?
I mean, I think, it's sort of like everybody wants an over the top experience. So you have to be careful. We do bring a little bit of that experience we got from healthcare in terms of, they were probably the first ones to watch labor and worry about efficiency. So we try to
Yeah.
bring that there, you know. So you've got a lot of enthusiastic people on the food and beverage side on the casino. They want to do everything. They've got one idea,
Right.
and that this is the place to do it. So we try to get them to think about a little metrics about, okay, on a Saturday night, how many people do we have here? How many seats do we need on a busy Saturday night? So we just give them a little
Yeah.
reality check and sort of say, okay, yep, we could have, do you need 500 seats, or do you really just need 350 or things like
Right.
that? So, I mean, we want to make
And
sure it's whatever we do is fun in the end, because everybody's looking for they're looking for an experience. They want to get away, but
right.
let's make sure that they can sustain it. So,
Yeah, absolutely. When you're getting ready to design one of your projects, what's your method of madness of working? Are you sketch it out on a piece of paper or napkin first? Are you tracing paper still, type start, or do you go right to the computer and now get into it drawing? I mean, what is your preferred method of working still?
yeah, I'm probably a sketch it out person. I like to do that. That's changed a little bit since COVID, and more Zooms and Teams and things like that. But you know, um, one of the projects that I'm really proud of is the Surly Brewery, here in
Yeah, yeah,
Minneapolis. And when we first started working with that, it was just it was the chef, and then she came into our office, and we were just started. Even before we knew, they didn't have a site. We were just trying to figure out how big the building was, and we're just saying, okay, so let's take each, there were three. There was beer hall, a beer garden, and then there was a high end beer restaurant. So we said, well, let's break it down into pieces. I just drew on the whiteboard and said, okay, so what's this person doing? What's this
yeah,
person doing at this station? What's this person doing at that station? And we figured out what it was, and we took a picture of what was on the whiteboard, and we put some dimensions on it, and that went into a space program. So, and I
nice.
yeah, I still, I mean, I learned the kind of the sketch paper from Bob Rippe. He would always do
Right.
that. We would come to a meeting, and he'd ask for a background, and he'd have rolls of sketch paper. And that, you walk away with, you're working with everybody's going to work there, and then they're invested in that solution. If
Right.
you don't do that, you're going back and forth via fax or email.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've switched a little bit to Bluebeam just because
Yeah.
I didn't have a scanner where I was working. So, so we try to do the same thing. We call it blue beam whiteboarding. So,
What is there anybody that's had like a bigger influence on you in your career so far that you can think of, like somebody that really had an impact?
oh, certainly, Bob Rippey just kind of, as a mentor. He
Yeah.
wasn't. I'm going to teach you how to do this. He said, it was sort of like, here, you can watch me, and if you learn from that, that's great. Um, and even when I would go to him when I started working in hospitality, which was different than healthcare, I would say, well, I'm trying to get this thing figured out, and he was not working elbow to elbow guy. He was like, okay, well, give me the drawing, and I'll work on it for a while, and I come back and tell
Yeah.
you what I did. So that was a big influence, and I always remember, like, I'd get overwhelmed where I would come to him and say, I need some help or whatever. And he wouldn't necessarily give me any help. He'd just sort of say, well, somebody told me, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, just sort of
Yeah.
like calm down, you know,
Yeah.
just figure out what's the next three things you need to do and focus on that. So
Right.
that
Almost
was,
like reverse engineer the problem out
yeah,
in small
yeah,
in small bites. I agree.
yeah. Just, don't look that far ahead. So,
Well, obviously that was big shoes to fill when you took over Rippe Associates from Bob that ran the company for a long time, and now that you're president of the company, like how has it, or has it? I guess would be the question. Has it changed in the last 3 to 5 years? COVID, and then coming out of COVID, and then kind of where do you see you're taking the firm over the next maybe 3 to 4 years as well?
Well, sure. I mean, and I wasn't, fortunately, when I took it over from Bob, we have, Terry Pellegrino and
Right.
Christine. Obviously, Christine's capabilities and Connie.
Yeah.
And now we've got Eric. So I was never the sole rainmaker. So it was
Right.
always, I was just the, kind of thinking myself as kind of the caretaker, because they're all being successful on our own. It's just like, all the people, somebody has to sign the contract, somebody has to be the president. Okay, I'll do that. So, and we've got a great group of people. Um, I always like to think of them in terms of perfectionists. They
Yeah.
don't all agree on what perfection is, but they all agree that, we got to try to achieve perfection. So,
Yeah.
and we've been able to add some people recently. So I'm excited about the future. So.
Um, you know, I've known you for a long time, and when we get ready for these, I do try to do a lot of research on people and everything. And I've known this about you for a while. You're kind of known as I don't know what I would call it, but let's just say you're a professional restaurant patron, I guess. Um, and I know when you travel, you search out places to try all around the world, and I know you're a world traveler and a good wine connoisseur and everything else. So I'm not going to put you on the spot for the best, but give me the top three places you've had for a meal around the world.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, let's see. I can't remember. Probably it was 2008 or whatever. Ann and I, my wife, went to Spain. And
Hmm.
we had, we didn't eat at El Bulli, but we ate it at two places that are up on the Michelin, Michelin top five.
Yeah,
Um, so that was great. But I mean, so for a while, that's what I wanted to do. I was like, okay, I'm going to go there. This place is famous. Let's go. I just
yeah,
don't have the patience for that anymore. I mean, it's so, we were, I don't know, we came to Lima, Peru, whatever. This was a trip where we went to Machu Picchu and we went to the Atacama Desert. And
yeah,
so we went to one of this, place a chef that I had seen in California at the Culinary Institute, Worlds of Flavor. There's kind of a point where I just kind of hit the wall on this 13-course tasting menu. So now I'm going to look for a place that's, I'm going to look for the best barbecue place or some kind of hole in the wall or something like that. I
yeah.
just don't, I just want to have good, simple food. So,
Yeah, it does. The tasting menus, while they're amazing and you get to try new things, there is a point in your life where you're like, I don't want to be here for 4 hours anymore.
yeah,
Like it takes the entire night away. So, while the food is spectacular usually, you hope it is anyway. It's still a long time and a hell of a time commitment.
right. And not to mention the financial, right? So,
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, you pay for that top five or top 10 for
right.
sure. Um, what's one thing about Steve Carlson that when somebody meets you or gets to know you just a little bit, what's one thing about you that they would never guess? Could be a
They,
hobby or an interest, something.
yeah, it's funny because probably maybe one thing that they wouldn't know is that every year for the last 10 years, I've participated in the American Birkebeiner ski race. So, and we have we've been visiting this area of Wisconsin, Cable, Wisconsin, for probably 15 years or so, and we bought a house there 12 years ago. And first we volunteered to be, help with the race, and then my wife says, "Hey, we're going to do this." Um, so that for me is next Wednesday. So I've got
Oh
to ski.
wow,
I got to ski 55 kilometers. So
wow,
um, it's kind of the good thing about that is you kind of got this weight hanging over your head, like you're gonna have to go out there. And I mean, it took me almost seven. It takes me almost 7 hours. There's a lot of people in
wow.
our industry that do it. I mean, some that are younger do it in about half that time. But that's probably the one thing that people may not know is like, so it keeps us outside and in shape over the winter. So that we
Yeah, I
can
bet.
so we could make it through that race.
So with that race, is it kind of like a marathon where you have to? Because I'm not familiar with it. Is it kind of like running a marathon where you have to time out your hydration and your food along the way as well?
Yeah, so they'll have aid stations along the way that would have water, and then I mean, I'd never done anything where you exercise that long, where you
Yeah,
thought that we got a lot of lessons as we were preparing for this, and they say you got to eat. So
yeah,
it's about every 7 to 10 kilometers is an aid station. You want to make sure you have whatever. I take Cliff Shots. That's like
yep,
where else can you eat cake frosting every 20
exactly.
minutes, right? And just and not feel guilty about that.
Yeah,
So yeah, so you have to be, the day before, and I learned this later because the first time I did it, it's 55 kilometers. I think it's like 33 miles. So I got terrible
yeah,
cramps, and somebody said, you really the next day just drink water all day long. Make sure your muscle cells are fully hydrated. So that's yeah. Otherwise,
yeah.
it'll be pretty painful. So.
Yeah, it's hard to believe by looking at me now, but I used to run half marathons, and
Hmm.
I never did a full. I did never had the kind of the ADD part of me probably just never said I could do that far. But even the half marathon, I had to time it out to where those cliff shots would at least one during the half marathon. Because if you didn't, you still got really kind of worn down by the end. And that
You're just
one
going to hit the
little
wall, and then it's too late if you haven't done it all the way along, right?
right, and staying
Yeah,
hydrated throughout the whole thing. You
yeah,
think
yeah.
I was always worried when I first started doing them that well, I'm going to have to stop and go to the bathroom along the way if I keep drinking this much. But you find out no, you're not. You're burning enough off of it. You're not going to have to do that. And I
Yeah,
wasn't very fast anyway. For me, it was more about the journey and completing it and being proud of myself for that than I was trying to win anything. But the more you do, obviously, and the more you research out, you do find out you've got to do some of these things or else you could hurt yourself.
yeah. You could really get in trouble. And
Yeah.
I'm with you. I think that the work binder uses this term finisher. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I don't care what my time is. I did it. I finished it. I made it to the end. So
Yeah. I used to love the one they had these shirts at times and it was like, um, uh, was it DNF is greater than DNS, which is do not start, and then greater than it was like last place. Like even the guy that comes in last place is still better off than the person that didn't start it and the other person that didn't finish it and everything else.
yeah,
So it
yeah.
was I know I screwed that up and somebody will probably correct me in the comments here, but nonetheless, it was always better to finish the philosophy was it's better to finish dead last than to not even attempt it at all. So
Right, right. It is that
um
you got to focus on the journey because it's too long to think about. You certainly can't see the finish.
when you
So
also get to enjoy the area around you when you're not
yeah,
trying to win it.
yeah,
Like I
yeah.
ran Louisville, Kentucky, Las Vegas, Nevada, and Chicago. And I got to run up and down the strip of Vegas, which was very cool because it was closed
Hmm.
for us. You go through Churchill Downs when you're doing the
Oh, cool.
Kentucky Derby half marathon. So you actually run around the infield, and so it was going about the journey actually at that point. So I'd love to tell you I loved it and kept doing it, but man, I didn't. And it was still even half marathon was too long for me. I would get my mind would start racing at about 8 to 10 miles and just like man, you start thinking about everything else you could be doing right now. And I just never people kept saying keep moving and you'll get the runner's high or whatever. And I never had that. I just had the
hard,
runners like, is this thing over with yet?
hard to stay in the moment when the moment is that long, right? So
Exactly. Exactly. Um, so anybody that's been in the industry for a long time, I love asking this question, and that is, what has been your greatest either mistake or screw up, whatever you want to call it? What's something you've done in your career that you're like, "Oh, I shouldn't have done that," but also not just to poke fun at somebody. It's more about what did you do and how did you learn from it so you'd make sure it didn't happen again.
yeah. Well, I think I don't know if this is the only mistake of me, the one I should focus on. But I have to say I was comforted, reassured when I listened to the first couple of these things. And when you asked this a similar question, you know,
Yeah.
um, the answer was, how many of my fellow consultants own dish machines? So, you
Mm-hmm.
know, through
Yeah.
no intention of their own,
Absolutely.
and we got that one. We own two, so. But,
Yeah,
but
I think that's a big one. Absolutely.
yeah, but I think what I learned from that, it's easier for me now to solve a problem like that because it's my money. I'm the owner. I mean,
Right.
it was harder when something happened when Bob was the owner. To have to go to him, and I knew what the right thing was to do, but I wasn't the one who was paying for it, right?
Right.
But what I we're all going to make mistakes. The thing that I learned from that is get in front of them, go out there
Yeah.
and say, "Yep, we're responsible for this." It might have been, we recommended, we specified it, right? So we own it. And in many cases, you end up having to work with the manufacturer. Something might not be performing properly, but you gotta own that, and you got to go to the owner and say, "We're going to fix this, and
Yeah.
here's what I think the solution is. What do they think?" And it's good to have insurance.
Absolutely. I know you've got a wide range of ages and experience at Rippe Associates. So, what's one piece of advice you give to someone thinking of becoming a food service consultant, regardless whether they're recent college graduate or somebody that's looking to do a career transition after being in operations? What's that piece of advice you'd give to them before they become a consultant?
Oh, why were you screwing around with what you're doing before then? I can't think of I just think about what, as Connie kind of phases out. Every time I talk to her, she says, this has been the most fun job I ever had. And she came from
Yeah.
working for Sodexo and food service operations. I just think it is a great job. I mean,
Yeah.
we all just got back from Orlando. We got to see all that exciting equipment. We got to go to a lot of events where we had great food.
Yeah.
I mean, what other industry can you know, work in where it's all about
Yeah.
food and beverage and
Yeah.
helping people? I mean, you get an opportunity no matter what market segment you go. You go into some places. I mean, I was somewhere the other, 30 years old kitchens and walk-ins and hoods. It's like,
Yeah.
there's nowhere to go but up, right? And
Right.
they're so appreciative, right? You come in there and you help them see things from a little further away. You're
Yeah.
solving their problems. You're going to make their daily life that much better. Very satisfying.
So many consultants tell me when I make that call, I'm really wanting the answer. I don't need to know the whole fluff behind it. I've already, for that point, I've
Yeah.
already decided I'm going to spec it. I really need to know the exact reason I'm calling, and whatever that question may be, I know I want to be able to trust what that person is telling me, that they're not just trying to sell me a piece of equipment.
Yeah. And you don't want something to go wrong, but I mean, that's an opportunity for a manufacturer's rep to really, cement that relationship.
Yeah.
Because like, are they going to help get it resolved? So, and the other
Right.
thing is, I think the people that are really successful in those roles are ones that understand, you know, what different consultants market segment are,
Yeah.
don't tell me about the fryer that McDonald's uses because we don't do chain work,
Right.
under
Exactly.
know your audience. So,
Yeah.
so.
Well, that's all the formal questions I've got for you,
Oh,
Steve.
okay.
But as you know, I'm always going to have some questions
Yeah.
at the end that are a little more fun. We've went back to the well for some of the questions we used in seasons 1 through 4. So hopefully you'll enjoy some of the ones we chose.
Okay.
The first one is, would you rather be able to teleport anywhere in the world or be able to read people's minds?
Oh, I'd rather teleport. I'd like to
Yeah.
remain ignorant of what people are thinking, or find out through normal conversation. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Would you rather have all the traffic lights you approach turn green or never have to stand in line again?
I hate standing in line. So.
I agree. Would you rather fight a duck the size of a horse or 100 horses the size of a duck?
I'd rather fight the big duck. So.
The big duck. Perfect. The big one, toilet paper, when you put it on the roll, is it over or under?
Over the top, just as I
All
was
right.
taught by my wife. That's right.
All right. Oh, you're
All the
taught
guys
by
I've
your
talked to, it's like they give them, the wife gives them permission to blow the paper towel the other way. That's okay. So.
Double dipping when it comes to food, whether it's a sauce or some kind of dip. Yes or no to double dipping?
If I'm the only one there, yeah. Otherwise, no way. So.
Okay. Favorite curse word, and we will bleep it out. But what's your favorite curse word?
Yeah, it's gotta probably be the F bomb. Probably comes the most
Okay.
frequently. Yeah,
Would you
especially
rather
when
know?
skiing. So.
What's that?
Especially when skiing, when I'm
Oh,
about
yeah.
fall.
Yeah. Mile number 30 next week will be just a string of F
Of
words.
F-bombs.
Would you rather know all the secrets to outer space or know all the secrets to the ocean?
Oh, I'm more interested in the ocean. So
Okay.
there's food there. So,
That's true. We hope there's no food in outer space, but you never know. Would you rather never have to do laundry again or never have to do dishes again?
dishes. I don't mind doing laundry. So
Okay. Would you rather go backstage with your favorite band or be an extra on your favorite TV show?
let's see. I have to say the band. So
And of course, I'm going to follow it up with what band would that be? If it could
yeah.
be any band, past or present.
Oh man. So, and I have to admit, I don't watch television. So,
All right.
and, and most of the music I listen to is vintage jazz. So most of those guys are gone. So
Yeah,
uh,
that's all right.
Coltrane and so
That'd be good.
yeah.
Would you rather have a personal housekeeper or a personal chef?
Oh, I go with a personal chef. I mean, I like to cook once in a while, right? But
Yeah,
yeah,
but to have somebody every day, that'd be great.
yeah, oh yeah,
I agree.
yeah. I can make recommendations. It'll just all be ready. So,
Exactly. Would you rather always have an annoying song stuck in your head or always have an itch that you can't reach?
I'd go with the annoying song. Yeah.
Well, that's all I've got for you today, Steve. But before we let you go, let people know how they can find out more about you and Rippe.
Well, thanks, Wade. Yeah, just go ahead and visit our webpage, rippeassociates.com. You can check out all our staff, all our projects, and yeah.
Well, that wraps up this edition of On Tap presented by FCSI The Americas. So special thanks to Steve for joining us today on the show. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to like and subscribe to our channel. And also help us out by sharing these episodes on your social media feeds. Until our next episode, cheers.